Hello and welcome to this amazing episode of MotorInc First. Kartikeya Singhee has just returned from the very roads he drove in a Maruti Suzuki Desire 3, 4, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, about
This time he was in the Honda Amaze. And today, hopefully, we'll give you a clear picture of what's going on. We discovered that the Desire was all right, not amazing. Now we have to figure out whether you have any desire left for the Amaze.
and this time I think I can ask Shumi to do the review of the Honda Amaze quite easily.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Shumi, is it all new?
It depends on what Royal Enfield. No, that's Honda motorcycles. I'm so sorry, I got confused.
Do you
Is it
think
all new? Look, honestly, I have not read up anything about this car, but from what I know of Honda, I have been doing so. I want to say not completely new.
It's like we've discussed with everybody, and this is a great example because we've spoken about Maruti repeatedly, right? Saying that the Suzukis that we're getting are effectively the previous gen with updates in
Yeah.
terms of the core platform.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
It's not going to be different. And if you think this is strange and it's an India specific thing, it's not. You can look it up globally. This is the same thing that's happening. You're getting the same hardware, but it's updated. And like we said before, don't diss it for that. Because if it's being refined, if it's being improved, and if you had a good base, why not?
Amazing.
Which means you can guess that in terms of dimensions, it's roughly the same.
Yeah.
So the wheelbase, weight, all of that is all in the same space.
Right.
What they've done is they've done a few tweaks to improve things here and there, but the structure of the car is the same. Okay, I'm gonna rewind a bit. Before going for the drive, I was sure I was gonna come out of this saying how boring, how Honda, all of which is true. So what I thought was it's going to be so boring. But I also started thinking of it as so good. It's almost like it's so plain that it's so good.
Okay.
And it's in so many different areas. You'll say it's so boring, but also so good. Like the design, for instance. A lot of people are like, this is so boring.
Right.
And I prefer the Desire or whatever, right?
Right.
For me, it's the other way around. I think the Desire is trying too hard. And with the Amaze, I feel that the design is, it looks from the front end like the Elevate, from the rear like the City. But what's wrong with that?
I think you're getting the design cues from two cars in one, so I think that's amazing. It's more value for money, in fact.
Correct. In your lower spec car, you're getting the flavor of both the more expensive cars. That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So, yeah. And the good thing here is that it looks like a design that's all kind of built together. It's not bits and pieces here and there. So it works. The front, the rear, the squareness of it, the squareness at the rear. Earlier it used to feel very chopped. It still is chopped, but it just flows better now. And honestly, because of how they've ended up designing and speccing the car. So the good thing about this is that there's no, the hook price variant, there's nothing like that. The straight, it starts from, I think, the VX.
Okay.
The V is the base variant. And you could buy that and get out of the showroom and be satisfied with it. Like it's got LED lights are standard on all cars.
Okay.
You get steel wheels, but the covers are really nice. And from the mid-spec variant, which is golden, the VX,
Which is golden.
golden as a formula, what they've got.
Oh, okay.
And interestingly, we'll just put it out there. Honda's clearly been very focused on getting this right. And we'll see why it's good also because of what adjustments they've done. You're getting a CVT version of the Amaze in this mid-spec variant, and that's the variant to get
Okay.
for 10 lakh rupees ex-showroom. In most of the variants, where they're offering, in the other two variants, the premium for the CVT is 1.2 lakhs. Whereas for the VX, they've kept it under 10 lakhs. And for that, they've taken the price down for the CVT as an option by about 20,000 rupees.
Okay.
Because when it's under 10 lakhs, the taxes applicable are lower,
Right.
in several states. So they've focused on getting it right. And that VX variant is the one. So for 10 lakh rupees, this Amaze, whatever they've managed to cook into it is a good combination.
CVT VX.
CVT VX.
Okay.
So they have focused on making it not necessarily flamboyant, but great value and definitely an alternative to everything else. So there's the Aura, there's the Desire, the Hyundai Aura and the Maruti Suzuki Desire. This separates itself from them in interesting ways. So you can almost look at it as a balance of those two that you would want. So the Aura has high quality interiors. It feels more premium. It has felt more premium than the other two.
Right.
Now you can say that for the Amaze.
Okay.
What they've done with the interiors is the typical, now that's where, right? So Honda. And these are the things that we are seeing in this segment now is fantastic. Because earlier the Amaze did not have this, the Honda-ness about it. So the quality of materials and all of that felt cheap in many ways. Now when you get in the car, you get the sense that this is a mini city.
Right. Okay.
The colors used, the plastics, all of that. Nothing is, again, flamboyance, don't expect flamboyance. Whether it's in terms of design or whether it's in terms of the equipment it has.
Okay.
But what it has is good. And funnily enough, I was looking at the steering wheel and the instrument cluster and I was taking a picture and I was like, I bet if I show this to somebody, you will not be able to guess whether you're in the City, the Elevate, or the Amaze.
And not because you can't remember what Hondas look like anymore. Just saying.
And as it turns out, the digital instrument cluster, the partial digital instrument cluster, which is there in the City and Elevate, is there on the Amaze. It's the same unit. Same goes for the steering wheel. And that semi-digital instrument cluster is available from the base variant.
Okay.
So it's really well equipped. The details that they've done make it feel like a step up over the old Amaze. And I think that is the key point here. This is not going to be an exciting car, but it feels good. It feels like a premium experience compared to the others. And we'll talk about how it drives and all of that. The point is, it's drawing this balance where it's giving you, let's say, the well-built feel on the inside of the Aura, but it's done the Honda way, so it feels even more well-made. The longevity aspect feels good. It feels even more premium, honestly, because of the steering and the instrument cluster and all of that.
Sure.
But it's also Honda in the way that if you look at the equipment, they have this 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. And it's that same old Honda stuff, right? Aftermarket. It feels aftermarket straight up. It's got wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay connectivity. It worked fine on one car, and on the other car it got stuck. But the wired system worked. Responsiveness is fine. But when you're using the native menus of that, it just feels like, oh my God, ye kahan se aaya? Like, where is this from, right? It just feels old. The sound system, 6-speaker setup, but does it feel impressive? No, it doesn't. Right?
So you're not amazed by it.
You're not amazed by it for sure. Those are the aspects which are so Honda and are so boring in today's day and age. So is Honda trying to do things differently? You can see that they are, but they're doing it in their own way. So this is the first car that they've been touting. So this is like, okay, now there are two things that we'll talk about. One is the features that are used to create interest, to get your attention, are more often than not marketing, right? They're not actually a value that you will experience and unlock on a daily basis. Very rarely is that the case.
Correct.
And so what Honda is doing is that we have brought the most affordable car today that you can get ADAS with, level 2. And this is why the top spec variant is the one we are saying do not buy, because that's what you get in the top spec. Effectively, you get slightly different design for the alloy wheels, the ADAS equipment, and one more thing, which is inconsequential. So basically, the ZX variant is the one that gets ADAS. Now they're saying this is Honda values, this is our goal globally, and that Honda Sensing is what they call the ADAS pack, should be available with everything.
Honda Sensing.
Honda Sensing.
I wonder how much thought went into that naming convention.
Okay, so Honda Sensing comes with the Amaze, and that's
You see that sentence? This is the problem with names like this. The Honda Sensing comes with the Amaze. Sounds almost like a data privacy violation in progress.
And that's a great point. And the reason why ADAS, connected car tech, is all, I mean, aside from using it to start your car to cool the cabin down, I have not heard of anybody use connected car tech on a regular basis. And what is happening in the US with this tech, we've discussed this before, is that your data is being sold to a third party. There, it's already happened. That it's being sold to a third party. Users are not aware of it. And in the US, where insurance policies and all are dynamic, right?
It depends on how you drive and what your record is.
And what your record.
Your car is basically revealing your record constantly.
Yeah. And people have gone out of insurance because they cannot be renewed. It's become so expensive for them. Because the data has gone somewhere, it's been interpreted somehow, and that's just it. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I'm just sensing that this is not currently an Indian issue.
Yeah.
But we need to be aware of this issue. And with the ADAS, I just have one question. Did they recalibrate it for India? Does it work? Did you try it?
So the good thing about the ADAS, the Honda ADAS and Toyota, these are the two systems which I have found to be the closest to being not annoying.
Okay.
Actually, they're not annoying. I did not switch off the system on the Amaze, both the cars that I drove throughout the day, and I drove over 200 kilometers with the cars.
Sure.
And I, at one point when I started driving, I hadn't switched it off. I started driving and I was like, is it even on?
Oh, nice.
So that's the good thing about both the systems.
So if you sense that you couldn't tell that the Honda sensing was on or not, I think that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's interventions, how it intervenes. So so these are by way of audio alerts, visual alerts, everything that you're getting.
Yeah.
When it comes in to warn you about stuff, all of it is so well calibrated that half the time when you would get alerts in other cars, it doesn't happen here. It's only in few instances where it's like, now really do pay attention, then it kicks in. And of
Right.
course, you can customize these things. But that was the good part about the ADAS. And I'll say this again, the Honda and Toyota systems are the ones that feel the easiest to live with even when they're switched on. But this is it. And why is it important to talk about it here now when the most affordable car in India with ADAS is the communication point? You might think this is an option you need. And we've heard of so many instances now where a dealership has delivered a car to somebody with ADAS tech and the buyer has just said, basically, I'm going for the top spec variant. He is not even aware of ADAS in the car. There are communications coming through like, why does the steering feel so heavy when I want to turn?
Correct. The key thing we have to remember about safety systems is at the beginning, they have to be invisible. If they can stay invisible until they need to intervene, they are usually trustworthy and reliable. It's when they break that expectation that you start to have issues. So imagine riding a motorcycle or driving a car where the ABS is just hyper reactive. You won't have fun with it because every time you think, oh, there's enough place to brake, the ABS system will come in and try to intervene on your behalf and there's no intervention required. The problem with bad calibrations on ADAS systems is they produce, for example, a collision warning and emergency braking, but there's no need for it. Nobody around you is expecting it. You are not expecting it. And now you're afraid of that system saying, I don't know when it will do something weird again. So what we are looking for and why Kartikeya keeps saying we just switch off ADAS system most of the time is because we don't want these emergency interventions to be the norm. We want these systems, as he's saying for the Honda sensing thing, we want them to stay in the background until you see a couple of instances where it wakes up at what you think is the right time for it to wake up and give you a warning. And you say, okay, now I can trust this system. And that's the gap that we're talking about.
Quite simply, the day a manufacturer gets up and says, I take responsibility for anything that happens with an ADAS system. Okay.
Yeah.
Until then, any incident that happens, that's your responsibility. Any damage that happens, that's your expense. And there was a very interesting comment somewhere.
Automated damage acquisition system.
That's a good one.
That's a bad calibration. A bad calibration is an automated damage acquisition system.
So the other day, somebody commented somewhere saying that, oh, ADAS is so awesome. It saved my family, etc., etc. Okay, it prevented a collision from happening. And what was the instance? My family member fell asleep at the wheel. And so then the car braked instead of hitting an object. This is what we keep talking about. If you're going to standardize and normalize that, yeah, now I can screw up and I can be more lax behind the wheel and the system is there to help me, God help all of us.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not okay. If you're that tired that you're going to fall asleep, please pull over. Today, we are not in a society where we can afford to do things like that.
Don't get upset. This is why the GPCC is very, very much against autonomous cars. Autonomous cars will not help the GPCC process.
And anyways, it can happen, I understand. But through these tools, through these assists, we will start normalizing incidents like this, or the fact that you can get away with them will encourage you to do more things like this, which is absolutely not on. Okay, back to the Amaze.
I love how this upsets you. I'm amazed.
No, I think that we are so willing to put our responsibilities on something else because it's just, hey, it's not my headache. Then at the end of the day, it's your life. Next time it might not be a truck, it might be a system, something that the car can't sense. And that also happens. Anyways, back to the Amaze once more. So Amaze, So boring, so good. That theme on the interior, what has changed? Dashboard design is new, equipment is upgraded, whatever. So good, so boring. All of that, those aspects, it looks better, feels more premium. Backseat, still the same. No real change in terms of this how you sit and all of that. But they've done the usual Honda thing, of course. They've gone and found more knee room by changing the shape of the front
They
seat.
scooped out the front
Yeah.
seats.
And they're the OGs, right? So they found a way to make that even better. So there are figures of how much the knee room has increased and all. They've even said that the width is better. So that I checked with them. And interestingly, they have changed the shape of the door pads. They even adjusted how the door is designed so that they could do that and the car is still safe.
Okay.
Okay, so they have 25 more shoulder room. Does it make it a 3-seater? Not really. It's still a 2-seater. The good thing about this car is, and this is just off the top of my head, if somebody is looking to buy one of these, do sit in the back of the Desire and the Amaze. I felt that I had more support from these seats.
Okay.
And I could push my feet under the front seats better, more easily. Therefore, I could sit more comfortably here. In terms of space, is it dramatically different from the Desire? I don't think so, whether it's even in terms of headroom. So is this car a great pick like the Desire for taller occupants? Not really. Because the roof line does come down and all of that. And here there's no sunroof. Honda doesn't offer a sunroof here at all.
You get my vote, Honda. Not giving a sunroof, that's the right thing
So
to do.
good, right?
That's the right thing to do.
So your visual room and all is good. That's not a problem. So somebody looking to buy a family sedan, this compact sedan, it feels like the better pick for me in this space because the back seat is more spacious.
Is it a good backseat? Is it a comfortable backseat?
It's
Or is it the same as anything else?
okay. If we had to look at anything in this 10 lakh rupee range, we've always said Baleno, right? Little bit more headroom, little bit more knee room, all of that, right?
No, but among the sedans, between the Aura, the Desire, and the Amaze, what would be the best backseat?
So because of the dynamic aspect as well, there'll be a certain weighted change. But this backseat, to me right now, feels like the best balance.
Okay.
It's been a while since I drove the Aura, but remembering what the Grand i10, etc. is like, little bit of a question mark there, right? So when we get on the road, there's the big difference between the Desire and the Amaze. They've changed the suspension tune and all for this as well because the car's also heavier. The platform is largely the same, but it has more high tensile steel to make it safer.
Right.
Weight has gone up by 30 kilos. I told you all the playbooks are there. The interesting thing in this is that they've done the internal crash tests and their design for the car is not as per global NCAP.
Okay.
It's as per Euro NCAP. So the side pole impact test, they are saying we are designing the car for a 32-kilometer crash test, not a 29. And therefore, they have done all these things of strengthening, even though the doors, you're sitting slightly closer, they've strengthened all of that. They have more structural parts now added on so that the load force that comes in is transmitted better, it's stronger, all of that is there. So which is why the weight has also gone up.
Got it. Just to make sure you understand this, the global NCAP test is a much less well-specified test compared to the Euro NCAP test, which is a very, very comprehensive test. In there is a side impact test which uses a pole. Pole is a very dangerous object and therefore the speeds at which you test are super low because otherwise you're going to have to build a tank to meet that test. So 29 is some person's number, Euro NCAP's number is 32. And that's basically the discussion about crash test ratings. If you'd like to explore the idea of crash test ratings more, on the MotorInc app, you'll find the 2 seasons of Disconnect. Season 2, early second, third episode, we discussed how to interpret crash test ratings in full detail, what is important to learn, what is important to ignore, and what not to take for granted. All of those 3 topics are in there. Easiest place to see it is the app. Sorry.
Done. So because of that, obviously they've retuned the suspension and stuff like that. And that's the big difference between this Amaze and the Desire. Because like we said, the Desire suspension was just fantastic.
Right.
This is good. The good part about the Amaze suspension setup now is that earlier it had a tendency to feel like the suspension could max out a bit. You would hear that. Now in this, bad roads and like hard hits, never did it go cut.
Okay.
It's on the softer side. That's there.
Compared to the Desire.
Desire has fantastic control, front and rear, always. The good thing with the Amaze is front and rear, it's balanced. But like when you typically get off a speed breaker, and I had a situation where we were 3 adults in the car and getting over the speed.
3 adults at a car launch? What's the world coming to?
So I had some people with me because I wanted to spend time in the back. So somebody was with me that time. So we were 3 adults in the car and going over speed breaker. You could feel it coming off, done softly, all of that. But then it does that flop, you know. It's not just the rear, which can get annoying. This is the whole car does that. But still, that is additional control that the car could have had. And we have a higher benchmark from the Desire on this front.
Understood.
Is this an issue? I spent time in the back seat. No, it wasn't. In the front, again, it wasn't. But you just feel that it can be flatter, smoother, and more polished.
So very good, but room for improvement.
Yes.
All right.
And the other reason why the Amaze, to me, felt good, and this was the surprising part, and why it is a better balance in this space for me, is because on the road, the sense of premiumness that you got was higher than I expected.
Okay.
Is because they have, and of course Honda said, we've done this for sound insulation, that for sound insulation, and they had this image where it showed all these things. And I said, but there was stuff like this for the, when we came up with the, they had the, because I remember that drive had happened in Bengaluru long back, when the Amaze came with the diesel engine. So they had to add sound
Their TDCI
insulation.
was a noisy engine anyway.
That ID Tech.
ID Tech, sorry.
ID Tech. Yeah, it was a noisy engine anyways. And it had CVT. And what a bomb engine and combination that was with the gearbox, the CVT. So it was great to drive. And they had done a lot of stuff for sound insulation back then, but it wasn't still enough. I said, this all stuff I remember, it was there for the Amaze. They said, yeah, it's there. So what have you added? So they've added a tray under the engine. They've added panels. I've got pictures of that. For the underbody, and it's strange, like I don't remember bits and pieces like this happening, and it's plastic cladding. They've done that. The side sills, they have now foam in them.
Okay.
And the effect is... So I was telling Shumi, that's the only thing I told him. I didn't tell him why. I said I was there and I saw Elevate drive by, and I was at the back of the hotel to swap cars, and I saw an Elevate drive by, and I said, I want to drive one. So they arranged an Elevate and I went out in that. For all the people who said that the Elevate's noise levels are not an issue, please drive the Elevate and the Amaze back to back.
One of those two will amaze you.
So it's actually...
And the other people will say, I'm waiting for the Elevate to get that upgrade.
Yeah, and it should. The Elevate, so I drove them back. I drove the Elevate. I did a quick run around there and I went back in the Amaze and I drove the Elevate CVT. And I drove the Amaze CVT right after that. The Amaze is quieter.
So tell me this, just so that you understand why this is a challenge. Why can't Honda just look at the Elevate and say, okay, we understand noise insulation is a problem, fix it, and then it's been in the market for what, 10 months now?
It's been over a year.
Over a year? Okay, here's the fixed one. With the sound insulation issue taken care of. Why can't they just do that? So this is not criticizing Honda, just so you understand the process. It's not as simple as it looks like.
So this will lead us to something else as well in this conversation, which we want to talk about. And this is something that Shumi has spoken about before. It's just what the culture is. It's how things move. And the best example I can give right now, relevant to the Amaze, is that do you know that the Amaze is available with a CNG kit?
Already. Nice.
But it's not available from the factory.
Then who fits it?
The dealership.
It's a DFA. Why wouldn't they just do a factory-fitted CNG kit?
Do you know that it's available with a warranty as well? The manufacturer warranty remains valid even after you fit.
As long as the dealer fits the CNG kit, nobody else does it. Yeah. But why wouldn't they just culture?
Because, and I feel this is like the same diesel moment for Honda again. They're saying CNG, how long will CNG run? How many people will use it? All of that. And by the time they actually do a factory fit CNG system, by then hybrids will have taken off. And or we'll be on the cusp of going EV properly. And they will have lost on that entire wave of CNG. Today CNG is becoming more and more normal, right? Like we've seen what Tata's done with the twin cylinder design.
Look, everybody's had CNG in various formats. You look at the Bajaj Freedom 125 as a motorcycle CNG. And there's pros and cons and criticism and appreciation, everything. I can't come to office any day of the week now without passing at least two or
Correct.
three of them every day. New people, some people going to work, some people going to college, and delivery boys. And they're everywhere.
Correct. And I mean, why will people not go for it in cars? I don't understand that part of it. So why did it not happen with the Amaze as a factory fit option? Because movement in Japan won't be that easy.
Yeah.
In fact, forget about that. One simple question: have you changed your mind about doing an Elevate hybrid? Nobody in the company can look you straight in the eye and say that the Elevate does not need a hybrid or that it should not have a hybrid.
Right.
Nobody can. But it was decided that there'll be a EV-sized vehicle of that type. Therefore, we cannot do an Elevate hybrid. We cannot split attention. And today manufacturers will, we've been speaking this for ages, saying that hybrids are the solution for India. We are a different geography, we are a different world compared to anything else that you want to compare to. And for our kind of country, hybrids are a great solution, strong hybrids, right? Today, no manufacturer will tell you that that groundswell or the voices of the buyers has not increased where more and more people are asking about hybrids.
Yeah.
But Honda's plans have not changed.
That's because we're speaking in Hindi and English. No, they only speak Japanese, right?
And I think that is a problem for, all the people there. Because there will be people who want to speak and want to do this and want to chase this, but just getting the message across, I think, is the big challenge.
Yeah. Again, sorry to bring up the disconnect episode again, but one of the very early episodes in season to discuss the cultural issue with how Japan works, corporate and society, and how it seems to get in their way increasingly as India becomes a more globalized culture, as the world moves on from where Japan is at, and there are fundamental attitudes in there, processes in there, and ways of thinking in there that are totally in their way. I think it's an interesting episode. Again, if you'd like to see it, it's in the app.
And quickly, like it's somebody just for to provide the both sides of the view. Do we not love things about Japan? Absolutely, we do. Are there not a lot of things that we can learn from there? 100%. There are so many things that are fantastic. But right now, where they are, and looking at how things are working in Europe, where we are seeing VW in trouble, we're seeing Nissan in trouble, which is also Japanese, also has a huge presence in Europe. Things have to change.
Yep.
If you have to survive, there are challenges coming which were not there 5 years ago, even.
Yeah.
Right? So that change is important.
And during the change, adaptability is important. And what he's basically saying is that even when the writing is on the wall and everybody at Honda who are clearly not in a position to make and execute this decision can see that, for example, the Elevate hybrid is a logical next step. There's no adaptability. It's not in a 6-year plan, 5-year plan, 4-year plan. Yeah, so it makes sense, but we can't do anything about it.
And the really selfish part about it is, we did that story sometime back. You'll find that also in the app. You should check it out. It's about the Grand Vitara hybrid and the City hybrid. And the idea is hybrids should become more popular. Which one of these two could do that? And the Toyota system, typically Toyota, is so focused on rationality,
Correct.
so focused on practicality. Whereas the Honda system is more plural. It is efficient,
But it is quick.
it can be quick as well. And that's what I keep saying. The Honda system is the one that will get more people to appreciate hybrids. But we just don't have the option.
Yeah, so Honda needs to elevate the Elevate with the hybrid, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Let's come right back to the Amaze.
Yeah. So the Amaze suspension angle, I said, it's good, but not fantastic. It could get there. For that, it needs more control. So with a fully loaded car, would it feel a bit too soft? I think it could. But for most normal situations, I think it's fine. It could have been smoother and felt more mature. And that is about all I will say about that. We got talking about sound insulation. And sound insulation, I did the back-to-back with the Elevate. And the difference is that uses Bridgestones, this uses MRFs, and I think the tires themselves are quieter. Plus, the general ambient noise in the Amaze's cabin is lower.
So once again, the Indian tire is superior to the Japanese tire on the refinement front.
See, this is something again.
I'm just saying.
There are, different brands treat their products differently. There'll be the premium products, which will be super cool. There'll be the others, which will be okay. And there are some who'll say everything has to have the same experience.
Sure.
In sense of, you get the confidence that, yeah, this one will be as similar in character to that. One, it's more expensive, so obviously it'll be better, but you won't get a poor experience anyway.
Right.
So I think MRF does that fairly well. I heard some complaints that these tires used to fail, which is a bit strange.
Which use? MRFs used to fail. Okay.
I mean, I have not had
Who
issue.
complained?
I think I was watching somebody's video and I heard this in the passing.
Oh, you watched it in a video. Okay, discounted. Carry on.
So anyways, the tires, and you can feel the difference, right? When you're driving between the Elevate and this, the texture of the tarmac, you can feel more in the Elevate. You can hear that tarmac more in the car.
So it's an enthusiast SUV.
Sorry, it has to scream less. Okay. And also the CVT, forget about the road. I could hear more of the CVT in the Elevate relative to the Amaze.
Okay.
You can say that they're completely different systems. Yes, they are. But it's a CVT. That's a CVT. That's the more expensive car. Should not that feel more expensive to drive? Coming back, Amaze has done a good job on this front, and that is why, to me, for somebody who's looking for a city commuter, this experience, because of how the cabin looks, how well it's finished, how well it manages to damp out sound, the comfort of how it drives over bad roads, is a good combination for it to be a practical car for somebody who wants the more premium experience.
And this is as a driver or as being driven in both situations?
Yeah, so as for the driving part, the 1.2 from Honda, it's been an engine that we loved at one point.
It's a Honda, so it's a 1.26 cylinder, right?
Imagine how much it would rev then. This, as it is, revs to 6,600 RPM, man.
But it's not a 3-cylinder engine, is it?
No, 4-cylinder, no. And that's the other thing. So Honda, so boring, so good. Because the engine, by default, by not changing too much, they have landed up in the sweet spot because the Desire has gone to that 3-cylinder, which is like a diesel in terms of how it feels to drive, and there is noisiness about it.
The diesel reference for the Desire is a very specific thing that he explained on the MotorInc First episode for the Desire. If you want to explore that idea more, it's a petrol that feels like a diesel. Check out the episode.
Yeah, so just by staying the same, by not doing too much, they're in this sweet spot. We have the 4-cylinder, which Aura also has. But this is the better 4-cylinder because the Hyundai engine feels dull.
Yeah.
This used to feel dull. Now what they've done is they've gone and changed the gearing for the manual. It's all become slightly shorter.
Okay.
The lower 2 gears are fairly shorter. Okay. Fairly short means what? Even now, short and tall gearing means if you stay in the gear and you accelerate all the way to the red line, how far does it go? It's the simplest way I can tell you. Tall will mean in one gear you could do 90 and now it does 70. So it's become shorter. The gearing has become shorter, right? So now with the shortened gearing in second gear, it goes to 90 kilometers per hour. Almost 90. Okay, just a little under, must be 86 or something like that. First gear is like some 40 something. So it's still relatively tall. Yeah? So they've shortened it a bit. They've retuned the engine a bit because now E20 compliance. And so because of that, they want to make sure that the performance is good even with E20 fuel. And in that, this is some techie stuff that is really nice. So I'm going to discuss it. They have variable valve timing and variable duration. That has always been the IV Tech beauty, right? Now they have this swirl promotion. So the air that goes into the engine when it's getting sucked in, it swirls. So it has better combustion then. For that, you know what they have? They have now a system in which it can close one of the intake valves. Just one. So it's really cool. So they said the system was always there, that they could have done it. The hardware was there. Now they have factored that in to this engine. So they have done all these things to improve low speed drivability. And the issue is largely resolved. When I was driving the manual, I spent over 100 kilometers, and I'll keep saying this. Goa is now the southernmost part of Delhi. This is South Delhi now. And seriously, the traffic is going up, and everywhere there are badi kothis and people driving out in swanky cars. So it was like being in any city, driving over there. So got a lot of time in traffic, lot of time. And Goa roads, narrow. So if there's traffic, you're slow. So did I have to shift gears a lot, which is something I would have complained about earlier? No. You could leave it in second going over speed breakers where you're practically at a standstill.
Right.
And it would pull. You didn't have to go into first. You could even do third when you're just crawling around. So that initial, that soft taps of throttle that you give to just get a little bit of momentum, all that is working well now.
Nice.
Earlier, it used to just feel dead. It used to just feel very dull.
Yeah, until
you
the
had
revs
to
came
rev
up.
it up.
Yeah.
Like it was like that Honda thing, right? Oh, when the revs come on is when the fun comes on. Now it feels distinctly more, for me, more of a mid-range engine, and which is not a bad thing. It's just that it gets into its sweet spot between 2.5 to about 4,000 RPM. That's when it really feels like there's this did I press a boost switch somewhere or something like that, where you can feel the pace getting stronger. The good thing about that is at highway speeds, it doesn't feel that much,
Right.
like it doesn't take much effort to drive them. Do you have to change gears if you want to move quickly? Yeah, you still do. But at least your day-to-day drivability is now easy enough with the manual.
Got it.
So even if you were looking for everyday city car, this is plenty good. And we've given this yardstick before. If you're driving more than an hour and a half every day in heavy traffic, then start thinking about an automatic. Otherwise, with a good manual and a good engine, you'll be fine.
Okay.
So that's a simple way for you to make a decision if you're looking at getting one of these two.
Got it.
Is the engine fun when you want to push it hard?
No, you said this car is boring but good.
Yeah. So, but there is, it's so good, so boring, so boring, so good. So the so good part of it isn't just the easy drivability. It's also that it still revs and goes to 6,600 RPM. Do you need to, is it something that you get extra performance out of? Not really. I think after 4,000 RPM, 4,500 RPM,
It's done.
it's kind of, it flattens out. It doesn't feel like you're getting more work done for the additional revs. But it still sounds so good. It still sounds so good. And in this, when I was driving it fast, the engine, okay, you make your peace with that. It's the sound was enjoyable. But the thing that genuinely surprised me, and I was like, this is fun, is the handling. The steering is so nice and quick. Like when you go off center, when you are like you're driving straight and you turn it a little bit, and the car changes direction so nicely and so quickly. It feels like it's alive. And that was like, oh, this Chotu car has like it's got spirit to it, that way. I enjoyed that. And this is the thing about the Amaze. I think on every front, somebody could take that boring aspect of it and say, it's too boring, it doesn't cut it for me. Somebody could take the steering aspect of it and say that it's too quick. Why does a car like this need to have a quick steering like this? It's not too quick, but it's something you will have to calibrate for.
Sure.
But I like that it's there because it gives the car some spirit. And then there's this downhill section which has some bumpy bits. And I was like, let's go for it. And over those bumpy bits, the composure that the car had was so impressive. Like it felt like, oh, all right, there's that Honda racing DNA somewhere in there, because it went hopped, settled down, and then whoop, just went, and all through confident.
Nice.
So, in strange places, like who was expecting this in the Amaze, right? And it's there. Okay, good. So that was the so good part that I was not expecting. Highway-wise, practical enough. City-wise, practical enough. Is it going to be an outright zippy car? No. I think if we still think about whether it's the Desire's current engine, the Z series or the older K, they will have more responsiveness at low speeds, will feel more flexible, all of that. But is this a balance I would live with because of the refinement, the ease of driving? Yes, I would.
Got it.
And I think the one trade-off will be, of course, fuel efficiency when you compare it to something like the Desire.
How much lower will it be?
I don't know. We'll test that
10,
part out.
15% more?
So the manual for now, compared to what it was earlier, it's still there in the same space, despite the shorter gearing and all of that.
Right.
It's still, the fuel efficiency is there or thereabouts. With the CVT, they've actually improved the fuel efficiency by 1 km here. And the CVT is a strange one to recommend. It's automatically, you will want it because it's the most premium automatic option that you have in this space. Nobody else is offering you CVT amongst the compact sedans. The only other CVT available today is from Hyundai with the i20. Right? This CVT is okay for city use.
Okay.
I think Honda does this one thing which we've said on the Elevate, we've said it on the City, they always have that slight focus on performance. They always have a little bit of it. And so when you just what we call as on off, right? When you're literally tapping in and out on the accelerator, right? And even on bikes, that is so important how the bike responds to those closed throttle, open throttle modes. You want smoothness, otherwise the bike gets upset. The same thing happens in the car as well with the Hondas, right? When you go on, tap the throttle a bit, it surges. It does. So you feel that every time. And I think that is the area that needs to be smoothened out a bit.
Okay.
So that when you're in traffic, it feels smoother. Is it a problem? It's not a problem. But it's certainly not the kind of tune I would expect, given that it is a city focus that you will have for this kind of an automobile.
Sure.
The good reason to get the CVT actually is if you're spending a lot of time on the highway. Because in this, when you're cruising at 100 kilometers an hour, the revs are much lower.
Yeah.
You're sitting at about 2000 RPM, sometimes even lower, because it's CVT, it just keeps changing it. Whereas with the manual, you're closer to 3000, not 3000, but 2700, 2800. So you're sitting at much higher RPMs for those higher speeds, whereas the CVT then will be more efficient. The CVT is still loud.
Okay.
It's
Despite
not-
the extra sound insulation.
Yeah, it's going to be there. I think Hyundai have shown how much you need to go hard with sound insulation to fix this issue. And we've seen that with the Creta, with the Verna. So Hyundai has gone a fair distance with that. Honda's taken the step with the Amaze, which is why I brought in the Elevate comparison at the start. And it's not just down to the suspension. Even the CVT, you could hear more in the Elevate.
Got it.
You can hear less of it in this car. So clearly, moving forward on this further will help. It gets annoying if you're going to be accelerating hard or doing quick moves. That CVT will get annoying. So the Amaze is right for a certain type of driver.
Okay.
It's right for a certain type of usage where you are willing to take a step back and enjoy that sense of calmness about it. In that, it will work very well. And I'm happy that this option exists because there are so many people who are just going to say, I am not going to drive fast.
Yeah.
I want a more premium experience. And this solution works. And the CVT also has paddles, the steps it can create, which don't kick in, interestingly, just on the throttle.
Okay.
So if you just go hard on the gas, it's not going to simulate steps, which is something that we like with CVTs because it feels more normal in that.
Sure.
It doesn't have that. You have to trigger it through the paddles. So driving-wise, CVT is a bit of a mixed bag. You have to think about the sound angle of it if you're choosing one, especially since it's more efficient on the highway. That will be a use case for it. City use, I kept thinking, is it a significant step up for me over the AMT that we keep talking about for the Baleno, right? Baleno, I'm specifying because it still has the old 1.2, the 4-cylinder, that's a smoother engine. And I'm not so clear.
Okay.
I'm not so clear. This is definitely a more consistent experience, but is it a significantly more sophisticated experience when you factor in the sound aspect of it? I'm not so sure about that. You have to see what your preferences are because that AMT also can work smooth at low speeds.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of pros and cons I was trying to weigh up when I was driving the car. And for the most part, driving the car itself, I was happy about. I'm really glad that this option exists. And it has been brought out of that budgety feel that the Amaze sat in and has got this more premium identity now.
Good. We need it.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, Honda certainly needs it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be a while until we see something else from them, which is...
Why?
They said something that they've got 3 products for India,
Yeah.
but those are 26, 27. So we have...
So why tell us?
so we are right now in 24, 25. So we won't see anything when we are a few months away from this financial year ending. Then we go into 25, 26, but this is 26, 27. It could be calendar also, but whatever. It's some time away. And so the ones that they'll talk about are it's not the Elevate because it's Elevate sized, but it'll be a different looking vehicle, I'm guessing.
Sure.
Which will be the electric. and then they have others. I'm guessing more SUVs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of things again which were Honda, which I didn't mention before. The front seats, it constantly feels like I don't have any support for the upper back. It.
You're too tall for that car, dude.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. The front seats are definitely not for tall people, because yeah, you sit in a more stretched out position, and that's fine for me. But even then, I realized that I was halfway through the rail movement. So
Oh.
yeah, so if you're somebody who's 6 foot and you need to sit there, it'll definitely feel a bit cramped. Headroom, plenty, but that's the thing, right? They've kept it low.
Got it.
And so it was for me, at some point, I thought, I feel like even the clutch is feeling like work because that angle is not right. And of course, you can raise the seat height because there's plenty of headroom. But it just, I couldn't find a sweet seating position.
Okay.
But that's something that taller occupants should keep in mind. And the front seat under thigh support, they said they've improved it, but I didn't feel great to me. Equipment wise, we said no sunroof. It doesn't even have a front armrest. And as much as I would like to say, wow, thanks for giving us
But
ADAS.
it's armrest versus cup holders, and you can only get one of those two.
No, it's nothing
that's
like
Tata.
that.
Sorry, my mistake.
On that note, wireless charger, superb.
Integrated?
Integrated, and it's like it's nicely done. The amazing part about it is that my phone with the cover rarely ever works with wireless chargers. Every time if I have to test a wireless charger, I have to take it out of the case and then try it. Worked. No matter where you put it, how you put it, it always worked.
Nice.
Is it powerful enough to charge up your phone? I don't think so. I spent 3-4 hours with the car.
But just held your battery
It
state.
held the battery there. So at least that is, I mean, it worked flawlessly, that I didn't have to place it in one point and see if it's working. It just worked every time.
So good enough. Not amazing, but good enough.
But on this equipment front, there are those strange things, because you're getting ADAS, but tire pressure monitoring system is an option, and that option information is only available through your phone. Ventilated seats, etc., aren't there in this segment, but they are offering it as an accessory, which is those kind of like seat covers that sit on top and stuff like that. So I think forget about the ventilated seats, but tire pressure monitoring, I think that should be integrated. That should come with the car, and that should come as standard. If you're talking about safety in our conditions, I think that's more important than ADAS, something that you can use every day.
But you can't market tire pressure monitoring systems as your ZX variant. Yeah?
Exactly. And this is the thing.
My Honda Amaze ZX knows what the tire pressures are. So what?
This is why I think they're getting tripped up by Hyundai, because Maruti with the Desire did the Hyundai thing of making it flamboyant, and the design is like, when a Maruti's been that, Suzuki's been that kind of dramatic.
Yeah.
And Honda is bringing in ADAS, the most affordable ADAS. It's just like that brochure tick mark, segment first, segment first, segment first. Whereas TPMS should have been there. Anyways, yeah, that's about it. What's left?
Quick summary.
All right, go for it.
Karthik has just returned from Goa, having driven the new Honda Amaze. This is the same size of car that it used to be, and it still goes up against its usual rivals, which is the Hyundai Aura and the Maruti Suzuki Desire. So what Honda is saying is that there's a lot of high-strength steel being used in the platform. It's the same platform, it's just beefed up a little bit because they intend for this car to be tested by crash test agencies which have more stringent standards than global NCAP. So it'll definitely pass global NCAP, which by extension means it'll definitely pass the Bharat New Vehicle Assessment Program. But there will be other global tests that the Amaze will have to pass, and it is ready for that part too. Now, what he really enjoyed is now the Amaze feels a little bit more like a small Honda City rather than a budget Honda as the previous Amaze used to. There are multiple components to this. Some of it is the design. You'll see a bit of the Elevate in the front. You'll see a bit of the City at the back. And what Kartikeya said is, it sounds like there was a maze in the design and they navigated their way through it, but it actually looks cohesive enough. It looks like a good car. Same on the interior. You'll see a lot of elements that will remind you of the Honda City. He said, if I were to take a picture of the Amaze and the City and show it to you together, showing the driver's information display, you may not be able to tell which picture is which car, which I think is a good thing. It means the Amaze has moved up in the premium ladder, and that's a recurring theme with this car. And he said, every time you drive the car, it feels like it has come a long way on the premium front from the previous Amaze, which, for example, the Desire also did. And the Aura is actually caught in terms of the life cycle because the Aura facelift will come later, at which point, if the Aura's behind, it'll have to catch up to this. The engine is a 1.2 liter 4-cylinder petrol. It's a Honda engine, which means it's a reasonably smooth engine. You have a nice manual gearbox, you have a CVT option, and just to navigate the maze of variants, Karthik's recommended variant is the mid variant with the CVT. Above this is what they call the ZX. The ZX he's primarily telling you to avoid because all it adds is the autonomous driver assistance system, or as I like to call it, the autonomous damage acquisition system. It's not a bad ADAS system. Karthik said that Toyota and Honda make the two most well-calibrated, reasonably quiet ADAS systems. The reason why we don't like ADAS as a marketing tool is because they're not flawless in our conditions yet. When they get there, they'll genuinely have utility. And at that point, if you want to get an ADAS in your car, absolutely knock yourself out. Until then, they might interrupt your flow, and which is why we try to avoid. So back to the car. So the Amaze, comfortable interiors. The rear seat was good. It's even more spacious now. They've scooped out the doors a little bit. They've changed the pads a little bit in shape. They've scooped out the seats in front. So the rear is a little bit more spacious than it used to be. He said if you're reasonably tall, 6 foot for example, do check out the driver's seat and the passenger seat in front more carefully. There's enough headroom, but the seat is fundamentally mounted low. He's 5'6", but he still had trouble finding a really comfortable, natural driving position in the car. You'll always feel like you sit a little bit low and a little bit stretched out. But you can stretch out in the rear seat, which for taller occupants may be a good thing. There, the headroom is not so generous because the roof dips at the back. The engine, 1.2, they've tuned it again. There's a lot of tech going on, and what it has improved is the low-speed drivability of this car is significantly better than the old Amaze, which is why he said if you're driving in the city and you're not going to go extraordinarily long durations in the car, let's say under hour and a half, you may not need the CVT. The manual will work well enough. Earlier, say coming off a speed breaker, getting off used to be a little bit challenging. Retuned engine, shortened gear ratios in the gearbox, it'll just feel easier and simpler. The only thing he would like Honda to look at a little bit more is when you get off the throttle and get back on the throttle, there's a little bit of jerk. We noticed this on motorcycles since the last BS6 emissions update also. It's happening to this car in the city. If it were to happen a lot less, I think you'll feel better about the car. On the highway, no problem at all. This engine, he's saying it's a mid-range engine, which means between say 2000 RPM to 4000 RPM is where it does its best work. Above this, please do rev out. It's a Honda. It's going to sound very nice, but past 4000 to 6600 RPM, which is the red line, it's not actually giving you any more additional performance though. Fuel economy with the manual, it roughly remains in the same zone. With the CVT, there's a marginal improvement. The CVT gearbox on the highway is actually likely to be the far more efficient gearbox because it holds the revs much lower than the manual. In the city, it's a pleasant gearbox. They've done a lot of work on sound insulation. It's a lot quieter, for example, than the Elevate. That's going to make that premium feeling come stronger. We saw it with Hyundai start out with the Verna, where they really insulated that car well, and it changed your perception of how expensive the car is. The same has happened with the Amaze. It's not at the Verna level, let me be clear, but it's certainly better than the Elevate. It improves your experience. So, the CVT, one quirk, when you floor the throttle suddenly, Honda's gearbox does not simulate gear shifts. So, you're going to have to use the paddles on the steering wheel to simulate the shifts for yourself if you want to get going more quickly. Otherwise, it will change the gearing and then you'll get moving. So we've covered the engine, we've covered the gearbox, we've covered the space. Overall, in terms of price, the CVT mid variant that he's recommending, it still comes in under 10 lakh rupees. And that gives you a tax break in multiple states where there are local laws about cars being under 10 lakh rupees in ex-showroom price or more. And you might be able to get a very good price on the car because Honda's taken that into consideration and kept that car there. What he's basically saying is you may want to avoid the lower models. You might want to avoid the top model entirely because all it adds is ADAS, which makes the middle model, which is the VX, the most attractive of this. He used the word golden to identify it as an amazing Amaze to buy rather than a golden colored Amaze to buy. And what he did not tell us is the boot size.
Boot space is great. the best in the segment?
So the boot is the best in the segment. What is not best in the segment is the suspension. It's a huge improvement over the previous one. It's nice and controlled and comfortable. The Desire is a little bit better, has more control. In the city, driving around with passengers, no one's really going to complain. But if you were to take the same set of passengers, put them in the Desire, they might be slightly more impressed, especially on really bad roads. Handling is where Kartik finally broke into a smile. I looked at his expression. I thought, wow, amazing. This car must have done something. And it did. It's a sharp little car. It responds very quickly to the steering, to the point where he said some of you who are not expecting it may need to calibrate your feelings to it, but it's a little bit darty, it's a little bit sprightly, and that makes the car a little bit more youthful and fun to drive. Whereas for the rest of it, his description is boring but good.
Yeah.
Boring but good, but the name is Amaze. Okay, the handling makes up for it.
Yeah. Another thing, when you CVT, why the variants are actually not a maze, they are quite simple.
I'm just happy that somebody's still naming LX, VX, ZX instead of fearless and powerful and euphemistic and enthusiastic and all.
So there are 3 variants, and all of them are buyable, no hook price. And you can also see it because the base variant also gets the CVT as an option, which would usually not be the case, right? So they've spec'd it out very well that way. And
if you want to buy the Amaze VX or LX or ZX CNG, then the dealer can fit a CNG kit to your Amaze, which will keep your warranty. If you do it outside, obviously you have no warranty. And Kartik did question a little bit, saying, did it need to be this stepmotherly CNG treatment, given that in our country, CNG does seem to work as a fuel, but Honda is not willing to go there. Honda is also clearly not willing to go to the hybrid Elevate yet. But Honda is promising that sometime in the near future, let's call it in the next 3 to 4 years or whatever, some 3 more Hondas will come.
yep.
So the Honda Amaze is not amazing, but it's a good sedan in an SUV market. Rate my summary.
Prices have gone up slightly. For the base, it's about 30,000-40,000, and given it 6 airbags and all that stuff, so it's good. And the SUV question is a good one actually, but in this space, it's going to be the big hatches that I'll keep coming back to. Whether if you want the CVT, then why not the i20, which has again similar 1.2 4-cylinder with a CVT smooth. And if you are looking for something that fuel efficiency matters even more and you want to travel, etc., then the Baleno comes in, and that will always be. So we said ADAS, think very clearly, do you really need it? Sedan, yes, sure, but do you really need a sedan shape, or do you want more space? In which case you have other options to explore. So think about it clearly before picking on what you want.
I think these car guys make too much of a big deal about this, okay? To me, deciding what shape of car you want to buy is the Swiggy thing or Zomato thing if you prefer. 3 box is always going to be superior to 2 box, okay?
Okay, done.
What are you driving next, Kartik?
Next is the Toyota and the new Camry.
हम तुम्हें कैमरी में बंद हो
Huh?
और इवैल्यूएशन हो जाए.
Wow. Send Shumi for this drive.
No. I am not going for a drive. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What is that after that? I think January will be super busy, right?
January will be when things get really interesting, because in Jan we have Creta EV.
What are they calling it?
I don't know.
The electric into Creta.
Let's see what they call it.
Write it and see what I just said.
And then we have 2-3. We have the Kailak. Oh, you asked us about the Kailak. We didn't drive it because when they had drives, it was camouflage drives, which was on a racetrack, so not really.
Yeah, let's clear this up, okay? We are very clear about how we want to talk about vehicles, cars and bikes both. If it is not on sale, it doesn't have a price, and we haven't had time spent with it, all 3, we're not going to make videos on them. It's too early. There's a lot of guesswork involved. And okay, let's assume that Kartikeya and I are amazing at doing guesswork. We'd just rather not lead you on. So, have people driven the Kailak? Yes. Is that opinion invalid? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it was a camouflage car, so we don't actually know what it looks like. It did not actually have a price back in the day. Prices come since then. Now we'd like to see the final shape of the car with the trims, with the spec, with the price. Then we'll have an opinion on the Kailak. And then I will get to sit and say, Kartik, Kailak ki hai?
So that all that the prices and all have come back. The car has been unveiled, and now the drive is being scheduled for January.
Yeah.
So that's the other one, Creta EV, and then of course there is this one, what is it?
The Parsi Kia, the Cyrus.
So that is also happening. Looking forward to that. And of course, a lot of you asked us about the Mahindras, the BE and the 6E. Sorry, now just the 6.
Oh yeah, you know, I got robbed of the opportunity because I was totally planning to sit down in this chair and say, Karthik has just come back from having driven the new Mahindra, so Karthik, be sexy. And I'm not going to get to do that, yeah.
Now it's just 6. Anyways, there's lots to talk about those two cars.
Yeah,
Whether it's
again,
the 9E or 6E.
for the reasons that I said, for the Kailak, that's the reason why you haven't seen the Mahindra BE stories yet. He drove the top version of the 6E. It was the 6E back then, don't hold me to it. And we got the prices of the base version. Again, so we haven't seen the base version which you know the price of. We've driven the top version which you don't know the price of. Not enough information to do a MotorInc First.
And frankly, yeah, you could say that you can still talk about it. Of course we can, but that's a lower power variant. It has a smaller battery. It will have a different interior. It doesn't have the same suspension. It doesn't have semi-active suspension.
Yeah.
It has different wheel sizes. So the experience could be very different. Could be. But we just don't know. So there's no point in us guessing. And just think about it. If the 6, now as it's called, if that ends up being priced at say about 24, 25 lakhs, how you feel about that? Won't it change?
Yeah, in fact, I had the same discussion with Royal Enfield when they were asking me for my opinion on the Flying Flea C6, their electric bike. I said, honestly, I haven't seen it. And they said, oh, but we revealed it at Milan and there were so many details. And I said, look, if your bike is 3 years away, 2 years away, it's not anywhere close to final production form, A. B, if you're shown a prototype and as much work as you put into it, no disrespect meant, but if I were to imagine the C6 as a 10,000 rupee electric motorcycle, then you've done an incredible job. Nobody on earth will be able to match you. And if the same motorcycle is 10 lakh rupees, then it's pointless. Nobody's going to buy one. The latitude is so much that any opinion I offer is fundamentally based on how much guesswork and speculation am I willing to do. I'm willing to do none. And we are going to stand by this. So we will have the BE stories once we have all the details we need to give you a clear idea of what to expect. Until we can set those expectations, we don't believe these videos achieve anything.
And which is also likely to be in January because they are most likely going to announce prices somewhere in the second week for the entire lineup.
Is there a national holiday in January in the middle?
No, this is, they moved off national holidays. This is some
No,
other event.
are you serious?
Yeah, so anyway, doesn't mean that they necessarily move off entirely.
But November,
They're mixing things up.
November
They're
26th.
keeping you guessing.
Wasn't it the national holiday?
No.
Oh,
They heard you, man.
they hurt me.
They heard you. So anyways.
If they were to hear me, I'd say, please name your cars where people can remember what they are. XEV,
Dude, there's just too much to talk
BE,
about.
XEV, 7E921.
XEV, it's really a tongue twister. It's XEV 9E and BE 6E, which is now BE.
So wait, the XEV is not a BE? Or it's a BE,
Dude, trust
XEV?
me, it's a great conversation. And I want to talk about that, but we'll wait for...
Right. I have butterflies in my stomach.
It's... anyways, so we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 cars, for sure. We're going to get the FJ Cruiser. The 42 FJ. It's doing the rounds of the media houses. Once they finish, we'll get it for a MotorInc
Okay,
First.
Shumi started doing cars. I just wasn't aware that the FJ Cruiser was in India.
We are also waiting for the updated Adventure to come. The Gold Star has to come back for us to do a view. Those 3 bikes are from Classic Legends. We're waiting for those. I think Bajaj is about to unveil updates to the Chetak. And then we'll dive into the Ola to Ola hai or Chetak to Shola hai and all of this drama. We'll see what happens with that.
It comes with fire extinguisher now.
No, they had one incident.
That's what.
Chetak guys. So we'll see.
Okay.
That is 2. Ather sent out something about an event at the track. I'm not sure that there's a new product or it's an experiential thing. I don't have the details on that yet. If it's not a new product, obviously, I'm probably not going to attend. And in January, we have our track day, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
Which is not a story, obviously.
Awesome.
Yeah, and what else is in January? In January, our app will be almost a month old. If you haven't checked it out, then you should. Ooh, shameless plug. I love it.
All right, see you guys in the comments. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, just to let you know, the work order has changed. It's a little bit easier for us to track the comments on the app versus YouTube. So if you'd like to have a more engaged conversation where a back and forth is required, it'll be easier to track that conversation for us on the app, and we'd prefer it you come there. And we have 2 specific things there. You can specifically ask a question as a post, which means your people are expected to answer your question, and you can ask an expert where somebody from our team will specifically respond to your query, and that I think is a private conversation until either you or us choose to make it public with or without. I don't have the details, but the idea is that's where we can do all of this, where it remains trackable. The conversation can have multiple iterations, and we can give you more and more information. This is very difficult to do on YouTube.
It should be a more fluid conversation. I think that is our key focus. And just in case, like ask a question post. If it is not available right now, don't worry. The thing is that we are going to launch many features in the coming weeks and months, some bigger, some smaller, but they'll all be there to just help us connect better.
Yeah, some bigger features, some smaller features. We'll launch everything.
ठीक है? मेरी class
I think that was a very amazing episode. I'm very, very happy to see that Honda is finally seeing the power of their dreams, even if they're not fully seeing Indian dreams just yet. But hey, every step is a step in the right direction.
I steered clear of all of those because
Why?
there was so many, like it was literally like, come on, roast me
Why?
during the
No,
presentation.
No, but look, I'm very clear about this. We love Honda as a brand. If they make the right car, we take and we bring home. Easy.
No. I be tech.
I'm not a car fan, but even I VTech. Okay, enough jokes. Thank you so much for watching. This is MotorInc First. We'll be back with more new cars and bikes soon.